Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. My name is Savannah Playford, the Director of Youth Ministry at Dixon United Methodist Church. Whenever you are watching this, welcome to today's daily devotion. Last week in my devotion, I shared how I felt tired and I've kind of been going through a lot. I have a lot on my plate, going to school and working and family, some of the same things that I'm sure that you are going through as well. But I don't know about you, but when I get upset or kind of in a funk, I like to do some of my favorite things. I like to have my favorite ice cream, my favorite meal. I like to watch my favorite shows. And I also like to read my favorite passages of the Bible. So I decided to reread the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount has always been my favorite because it's a good representation of how we as believers should live and also how we should not live. So I wanted to share with you today what comes at the end of Sermon on the Mount. Matthew 7:24 through 27 says this: "Everybody who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise builder who built a house on bedrock. The rain fell, the floods came, and the wind blew and beat against the house. It didn't fall because it was firmly set on bedrock. But everybody who hears these words of mine and doesn't put them into practice will be like a fool who built a house on sand. The rain fell, the floods came, the winds blew and beat against the house. It fell and was completely destroyed." You see, in these verses, Jesus is comparing how two different ways we can choose to live. He doesn't say which one we need to pick or should pick. He doesn't even say the right or wrong. He just says, here are two examples. And I think oftentimes as Christians, or even as humans, we put things into that perspective of right and wrong. For example, there's a right and wrong way to do school, a right and wrong time to get married, to have kids, or even a right and wrong time to eat certain foods like ice cream or cake, things like that, right? And oftentimes as Christians, that makes us stop our thinking. We can't see beyond that. When I was younger, my mom explained to me that there's not necessarily a right and a wrong way to do things, but instead there's an easier or a harder way to do them. And I think that that's what Jesus is hinting at here. Life would be easier if we built our life on Him, a solid foundation in Him and in the church. That means that we need to be hearing and responding and being good disciples, not just a phony who worships Him on Sundays or when things are kind of hard. And to be fair, I don't think that the second representation of the house that was built on sand, or the fool's life, I don't think that that person is deliberately seeking out false information or false foundations or even destruction. I don't think that that's what people do. People don't go out of their way to do this destruction, but instead, they don't think about what's coming into their life. They don't think about their life's purpose or what they could do to change. Foundations matter. I know that at least. I know nothing else about construction, but I do know that foundations matter. They matter in both construction and also people's views on the world. Those who follow Jesus' teaching are like a wise man who built their lives on the house of rock. Those who ignore him are like the foolish man who built their house on sand. One will survive the violent storm and the other will fall hard. The same is true for all of us in the different things that we face in our lives. So ask yourself, how is your foundation and how can you make it better?